Hello students, today we are going to talk about Raymond Williams. Raymond Williams was a British literary theorist and Marxist thinker. He was one of the founders of cultural materialism and cultural studies. He considered literature from a Marxist viewpoint or perspective and tried to find out whether this literary works or literature or art art forms in our society is supporting higher class or class hierarchy. For this purpose, William developed cultural materialism to locate or identify the presence or involvement of money or wealth in the making of culture. This is the simplest definition for cultural materialism that Raymond Williams and other Marxist thinkers tried to find out the presence of money in the making of culture. Okay, let's start with famous work of Raymond Williams, that is Base and Superstructure in Marxist Cultural Theory. In this one, he in this book he used the concept of base and superstructure divisions in society to analyze the literature. He is saying that we need to understand the process that determine the cultural forms. Here, what he says is that we have in our society we are dealing with many cultural forms like literature, plays, dramas, films, poetry, etc. So who is giving money to produce all these artifacts, and whether the people who is producing or giving money for this are trying to misuse this is the examination he is making through this work, Base and Superstructure in Marxist Cultural Theory. Here he says that we need to study about the working of this determination process. So here we have to understand what is determination. It is what type of literature is produced and who is giving money for it, who is determining or deciding what people have to watch and read. This is the simple definition for the term determination. And this is what the audience have to watch and what they should not, and what common people have to read and what they should not read is decided by certain people from the elite or dominant class, or the dominant class here means people from wealthy class. So, or superstructure, this is the superstructure means people who decides or control the society through their money and power. This is superstructure. So in this work Raymond Williams is trying to locate or find out who is determining what others have to think or read. And so for example, um, in in India or in any other countries, there are publishers to publish the works of famous writers. But what about uh, good writers who don't have money and fame? This is the basic question Raymond Williams is asking in all his works. How material condition or wealth or money influence the production of certain products. These products includes the production of literary works, dramas, cinemas. How superstructure or dominant class influence the creation of such cultural forms, and how these wealthy people use these art forms to project their greatness and invisibly try to hide the negative side of these elite people. This is the basic concept of this work called base and superstructure. Through the concept of cultural materialism, Raymond tells us to locate or realize the role of wealth or materialism in the creation of culture. Creation of culture is very important because culture in society is created through literary works like novels, dramas, films, television, and radio. Through all these mediums, we are perceiving culture or the way of life in our in our the way of life we are perceiving or getting through the all these medias. So it's very important to realize whether the products we are receiving through these medias are influenced by wealthy people or not. This is what Raymond Williams is saying. And in the later period of his career, he is realizing that not only in literary works but also in the field of technology also, wealthy people are doing their tactics or traps. They are also influencing technology to they also misuse technology. Later in his career, Williams is talking about the working of television. He has an opposite view that we cannot consider television as a device of democracy or modernity. Here, Raymond Williams is against the viewpoints of Marshall Macluhan that television is not at all an innocent device. This technology of television is also misused or utilized by wealthy people to project their greatness, or they are only deciding what the common people or audience have to watch. This is what Raymond is saying. It is not television is not at all a device of modernity. Instead, it was used to promote the interest of some few people who decides how this technology to be used. Raymond Williams observes a politics in the use of this technology. This means technology is also a cultural practice or product like literature, and it has its own ideology and politics. In the field of technology also, this uh, misusing is happening. So we understand that technology is also a cultural practice or product in our society, and this technology has its own politics which Marshall McLuhan failed to understand. This is what Raymond Williams is saying. we know that in the field of media or sorry, this all the news channels are supporting particular ideology. They are giving news against the opposite party. So we can say that television is also the technology of television has also following certain politics and ideologies. This is what Raymond Williams is saying. Next, he gave his own definition for culture. Through the analysis of culture, he developed a new academic field, that is cultural studies, which examines the everyday life of non-elite groups. So the most important contribution of Raymond Williams to to the theory field is that he gave clear-cut definition for cultural materialism and cultural studies. Cultural studies is the study of the life of non-elite group people. That is studying the way of life of common people. This is cultural studies. And what is cultural materialism? Trying to find out the presence of money in the making of culture. This is cultural materialism. Finding materialism or materials in the making of culture. This is the simplest definition of cultural materialism. In the work Culture and Society, which was published in 1985, he is dividing culture into three parts: ideal, documentary, and social. All these all these cultures have equal values. Ideal culture means a state of perfection. When we do a work excellently, or when we are absolutely truthful in our activities, it can be called as ideal culture. So there, this is somewhat very difficult to understand. That is, he has divided whole culture or the way of thinking of humans into three categories. That is ideal, documentary, and social. Ideal, from the word ideal, we can understand that ideal or perfection. When we do anything perfectly, we consider it as an ideal one. This is the definition for ideal culture. It is a state of perfection. When we do a work excellently or completely truthful, it can be called as an ideal culture. Next one is documentary culture. This one is related to intellect or imagination, and so it is connected to achievements in art, philosophy, and literature. In simple terms, we can say that a beautiful painting, whether it's an old one or modern painting, it is related to our intellect or brain work. So it comes under documentary culture. So examples are paintings, pottery, music, films, etc. Next one is, and sorry, in this documentary culture, we use to identify ourselves. Next one is social culture. Social culture is the correct definition for culture given by Raymond Williams. This is the everyday activities doing by common people to sustain their life. This is the basic definition for social culture. It is the way of life of both elite and non-elite, that is common people. So this is a way of life, everyday life of all the people, whether it's elite or non-elite, it's not a matter. Uh, Poor or wealthy people, that's not at all a matter. But that way of life in everyday life, um, what all we are doing to sustain our life, or that is called culture. The how we are eating, what all we like to eat, the way of our cooking, way of our talking, what all books we are reading, what all we are talking, and the mannerisms of our behavior, everything, what all belief or religious systems we are following, what political side we are taking, the leaders we are following, everything is a part of culture. This is a definition given by Raymond Williams for the word culture. And for this he used the they use the word culture with the C as a small letter, C as so small letter, not capital letter. There is a difference between culture of C with the capital letter and culture with the word culture with a small letter. There is great differences. So he says that this culture is always changing. This is not static. There is a dynamic nature for such culture of common people. By the sorry, in the when years are passing, they may change because of the change in this culture, or because of this dynamic nature of culture. They may change the way of life also. But unfortunately, there is always a rift or a tension is among this, the culture from elite group and the culture from common people. This is an unfortunate thing. This is what Raymond Williams is saying. Raymond claims that both uh, popular culture and the culture of elite class has equal value, even though there is a dynamism for this culture. There always remains a tension between the popular and the elite cultures, because we all know that in our societies, till now, there is a rift or problem or an enmity between the culture of wealthy people and between the culture of poor people. This is what Raymond is saying in this work, Culture and Society, published in 1985. And in and he also says that there is another, we can also by the sorry the, we can also divide this culture into three types, that is dominant, residual, and emergent culture. Dominant culture or dominant discourse means what all people are believing strongly, the belief system which is followed by most of the people, that is dominant culture, it may be very strong also. For example, the consumer culture of today's world is the best example for dominant culture, because at present most of the people are this consumer culture means people are very practical and very selfish type of thinking. And this practicalism is the basis of consumer culture, and I think this is the dominant culture of today's world. Residual culture means the culture happened in the early period, but still now it has its effects in our society. This is residual culture. The best example is Marxist ideology, because in the early period, that is during 1960s and 1970s, in India and in all over the world, it was very strong Marxist ideology. But now we can say that, we can feel that it is not so strong as before, but still it has its effects in our society. So this is excellent example for residual culture, that is Marxist ideology in our society. And what is emerging culture is new types of cultures. It's coming day by day, like queer theory, lesbian love, lesbian marriages. These all were not in the earlier period that much, but now it's coming very strongly. So new types of thinking are coming very, very dominantly. This is emerging culture. Another concept is in the work The Long Revolution, he is making a conceptual difference between the word culture and and the word culture with a small letter, and with the word culture with a C with a capital letter. Word culture with a higher case, that is C as a capital letter, is an alternative or synonym for high class or high standards. We know that in the works of F.R. Lewis and Matthew Arnold, they considered culture. They always considered culture with the habits and way of thinking of high elite class. For this, Raymond is using the word culture in which C cultures C is capital letter. But in the work The Long Revolution, Raymond realized that the agenda behind this is to give the impression that elite or dominant class has always high standards. He says that by giving a definition of high culture with high high class, there is a it's a trap or a tactics to give the impression that the all everything in the high class are high with everything in the high class has a high value. This is a wrong conception. Behind this is to give the impression that elite or dominant class has always high standards. This is a wrong thing. Against this, Raymond Williams developed the word culture. In this, C is used as a lower case. This culture is not related to the high standards of civilization, but it is about the everyday activities of common people. So this is what already I have told you, that in the Raymond is giving another definition or a clear cut definition for the word culture. He says that please don't identify culture with high standards, or like high five living style, or high five way of talking, like for example what we are watching in the film Titanic, that there is a we can see that the life of heroine is from higher standard, high class. The way of talking, their way of living, their way of eating is entirely different from the living of common poor people. So Raymond is saying that please don't think that is culture. That is not at all culture. That's only a way of life. But he is telling that the real culture is the way of living of common people. Their what they are talking, what they are wearing, what they are reading, what they are cooking, and what they prefer to eat. All these everyday everyday activities of common people is called culture by Raymond Williams. Their language, their social, political, and religious attitudes all are called culture by Raymond Williams. Thus, cultural studies is the study of the everyday life of non elite common people. Thank you.